What's good, y'all? It's your man Sight, and I am back once again with another walkthrough on how I put together a really dope beat. Before I get into all that, I just want to say I hope you guys are all doing well out there. I hope everybody's staying safe. I haven't made any videos in the past couple weeks because obviously this worldwide situation we're going through is pretty challenging on the mind and the spirit. So I kind of been in a weird place. I wouldn't call it like depressed, but just really focused on trying to get things together for my family and trying to be very responsible. I actually went through a bout of beat block where I just really couldn't do anything creative. Wasn't just beat block, I really had trouble kind of creating apparel. I did have a couple jobs I had to work on as far as logo designs and things like that, but it was really hard to stay creative during the past couple weeks, due to all the uncertainty that's going on in the world. A lot of things that we kind of take for granted, just being able to go out and about and explore the world, and now we're kind of all stuck at home trying to just make the most of the situation. Now this is challenging for everyone. I know me personally, I was not able to do anything really creative until I kind of took care of the main necessities for my household first. I highly recommend that. If there's something that you haven't prepared for, I know none of us were fully prepared for this whole situation, but if there's anything kind of lingering in your household, if you need food, supplies, anything that'll make you feel safer, I got the Tech 9, so what the bomber clock boy, I highly recommend to go out and take care of that if you can, because it's going to give you a lot of peace of mind in the long run, and it's really going to help your creativity. When you take care of those primal needs and those primal necessities, which are safety, food, clothing, and shelter, it's a lot easier to kind of be creative and think outside the box and work on things like music once your main priorities are taken care of. That's my advice to you guys through this time. Take care of your essentials first. Make sure you guys have food, make sure your family's taken care of, make sure they're safe. And once you have those things taken care of, it'll be a lot easier to get in the zone, get in the lab and bang out. So that's pretty much what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks. My apologies for the hiatus. However, I am back and I'm gonna show you guys how I put together this really dope beat. It's kind of got like an early 90s Queensbridge vibe, a style that I really grew to love as I was growing up listening to hip hop. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And once again, thanks to everybody for supporting the channel through copping the MPC Gang hats. This one's actually just a prototype I made a while ago. But I did get a chance to get in my creative lab here and work on some new designs. I'll show them to you real quick. Came up with some prototypes and I'm getting feedback on the MPC Gang group in Facebook and on my Instagram. So if you have opinions about these, any particular ones that you really like, make sure you chime in. I'm trying to get a vote for maybe like the best top 3 or 4 and see what people like the most, all right? So here's the first one. Now they're all gonna be in the patch hat design. This particular one is a 7-panel mesh style, almost like a trucker, but it's got full cotton on the front. And these are for the spring, so I really kind of went heavy on the mesh. This particular one is ripstop camo, which is kind of like the default material that fatigues are made out of for the military. And it's got the mesh on the back, so really breathable, but it's got that cool ripstop type effect on the front. This one's a cool gray 7-panel, all cotton, really comfortable. Our black 7-panel, which is called the Blackout Edition, is the most popular model. And this is basically the same exact thing except in a cool gray with the red and black patch. This one is kind of like Cali influenced, went with the plaid, again with the mesh back for breathability. I like the fact that it's half light and half dark, a lot of contrast, pretty dope. This one's a classic 6-panel cotton with the black patch, really popular colorway. Got a lot of great feedback on this one as well. And last but not least is the gunny cloth. Man, this thing is doing numbers. People love it online. Real breathable, high contrast with the gunny cloth, kind of like a burlap sack type of material. You got the classic patch on the front with red and black, and then you got the black bill and cotton. Those are all the hats. I'd love to get some feedback from you guys, which ones you like the most. Drop them in the comments down below, and I'm gonna add up all the favorites, pick out the top 3 or 4, and I'll put those on imsight.com so everybody can cop whenever they're ready. So once again, thanks for the support, y'all. If you like this video, make sure you drop a like down below, leave a comment down below with any particular questions that you have, and make sure you hit that subscribe notification as well as the bell and put it on all. That way every time I drop a new video, you'll be notified, and make sure you get it right to your feed, all right? Let's get busy. All right, so we're back in the lab. I'm gonna walk you through how I put this together using kind of my favorite tools. One of them is Pad Perform mode, using some custom chords, and another one is Reason, which is, it's funny, I have an old copy of Reason, like from like 2010. So the first step was the piano, and let me show you how I put that together. All right, I went to pad perform mode, and this is actually a custom chord that I got from MasadaCycleKits.com. So I'll show you the chords that I used. I chose a BPM at about 88 BPM, and I laid those out, let me see here, a little bit differently. So once I recorded them, I actually went in and humanized them. Well, first what I did was I took the chords didn't look like this, they look like big blocks. So I took those chords and I shifted them around, and basically I just changed the beginning. So instead of them all starting on the 1 or all starting on the 3, I just went ahead and adjusted them so they hit on the areas that I wanted. All right, so next what I did was I went in and I adjusted the notes just a little bit. I used the humanize function, which you can get to by tapping the pencil here in the track area. And you can hit this humanize function and change the parameters. You can make the notes hit a little bit early, a little bit late, and it just kind of randomizes it, makes it sound more like a human playing a piano. Now, I normally like to humanize the velocity as well. So, that'll make sure it just sounds a lot more realistic. So using that humanize is definitely one cheat code that I'll use to make melodies sound more realistic, especially on pianos and guitars. It really works well for those. Once I made the adjustments, the loop sounded like this. And I basically just loop that twice. And then what I'll do is normally when I'm using this, sometimes I'll do it up front, sometimes I'll do it after the fact, but I'll go in, hit the pencil tool again, and bounce it to a sample. And typically what I'll do is once I bounce it to a sample, I'll mute the original MIDI track, I'll assign it to a pad, and then I'll go to a new track and lay it down. That's so if I ever have to go back, I can actually adjust the MIDI later on, but I've committed to the melody, and that gives me a sample-based workflow. I like that a lot more. And sometimes it will avoid lag if you're using a whole lot of MIDI channels. So if you have a weaker computer, this is a quick way to kind of save some processing power. And once I had that down, I wanted to add a little bit more to it, and I picked this kind of muted guitar, and it sounded like this. So with that, I used the same chords that I used in pad perform, except I did it in a different pattern, but I did make it follow the piano. So let me play both of those at the same time for you. Same exact chords. Instead of splitting them up like I did with the piano, I just kept them at a more simple pattern. Just used it more like an accent. All right, so next I wanted some drama. Wanted to add kind of like a string type of sound, so I chose this string type synth. Real urban symphony, dark symphony type of sound to it. So I really like those type of beats. Some of my favorites from like Biggie and early Bad Boy were real dark like that. So that's kind of the vibe I was feeling at this point. So once I had that together, I said, okay, now it's time to add some drums. I went ahead and selected from a few different kits that I have. One of them that I really like is the Beat Butcher kit. If you get a chance to check it out, I highly recommend Beat Butcher's kits. Real dope for soul beats, real dope for kind of like dark urban beats. Not so much for trap, but definitely for kind of more like soul realistic sounding drums. I went with kind of a simple boom bap style drum pattern, and I'll let you hear it real quick. See what I'm saying? It's got that real kind of early 90s, dark cinematic vibe. I don't know if you guys are familiar with The War Report by Capone and Noriega. A lot of Queensbridge rappers use that type of style, and Queensbridge producers use that type of style. So something I'm real familiar with. I did a whole bunch of beats like this when I was younger, and sometimes I just get the urge to make these again. And last but not least, I needed a bass line, so I went ahead and added another track, put the bass on a key group. I found a really clean sine wave type of bass, which is just purely low end. It really doesn't have any top end at all. And now I'll go ahead and play with everything else. Pretty dope, pretty dope. So at this point, I'm ready to start breaking it down, putting it into different sequences, and that way I can put it into song mode. Now, another thing that I did, I actually went in and added some vinyl static because I wanted it to sound more like a record. You can barely hear it, and that just kind of gives it like a dirty texture over top of the loop. And at the turnaround, I added this sound I got from a snare Jordan kit from Jake One. It's kind of like a riser ARP synth kind of thing. Here, check it out. And I added a round pan effect onto it just to make sure it went back and forth between your ears. Give it a little bit of more of a stereo feel when the beat's about to switch up. And I made one sequence out of the pizzicato strings, which sounded like this. Kept the guitar in there. I muted out all the drums except for the snare at the very end. Now, one little cheat code I used there is I actually duplicated the snare onto another pad just by hitting the copy button, copying it to a second pad, and then I went ahead and added reverb onto that snare, so I had a long tail to it. That gives it like a real dramatic smack at the end of the turnaround. In the last sequence, I wanted to add everything together. I like the way the sequences come together. Now I just want to add an intro sequence, which I'm just going to take that piano loop and I'm going to basically filter it out using automation. Basically soloed everything out except for the strings, which is on track 11, and track 9, which is the piano. Now, one thing that I did in order to get that filter effect was use the XY effects. You can automate it if you put it on a specific program. So what I did was I made a second program. You'll see down here it says program 2. I added my main loops to that program. That way, when I hit the XY effects, I could actually choose up here at the top, choose program, hit setup, and then I can choose, how I want to filter it out. So I actually went ahead, hit the automation button up here in the top right, hit overdub and play start, and then I played back my performance here, and you'll hear it. It was real low muted, and then I'll bring it back at the end before the next sequence. Go to those pizzicato strings. Took the bass line out. The second part to the verse. You ready to drop it out for the hook. Verse. And that was it. I pretty much liked the way everything came together. I liked the dramatic feel that it had. Once again, it kind of reminded me of CNN, Capone Noriega, the War Report type of vibe, real Queensbridge, Mobb Deep type of vibe to it. Some of my favorite hip hop music. So that's it for this one. This was not so much of a tutorial as like a walkthrough once again, kind of what I started off doing, just kind of showing you my workflow and some of the tricks that I use. If you have any other questions how I did specific things on here, I can break it down a little more in detail, but hopefully this gives you a feel the type of vibe you can accomplish with the MPC, whether you have the 1, the X, the Live. They all pretty much do the exact same thing, and you can get the same results with it. So that's it for this one. If you guys have questions, make sure to leave them down in the comment section. I appreciate all y'all showing love. I'll be back on the next one, all right? Peace.